group that campaigns to cut the growth in population. Optimum Population Trust believes the Earth may not be able to support more than half of its present numbers before the end of this century, and it's launched a Stop at 2 online pledge to encourage couples to limit their family's size. Well, Roger Martin is chairman of that trust, and I asked how soon he thinks the problem of overpopulation will become critical.
We think that it's critical now, actually, because the fact is that there is not a single environmental problem, as David Attenborough says, which wouldn't be easier to solve with fewer people and doesn't get harder and ultimately impossible with more. And that's why our first target is simply to get the environmental movement to recognize that population growth is a driver of every problem they face. While they observe the taboo on saying this, there is little hope of getting it publicly discussed and therefore some action taken. So the first thing is to break the taboo.
Well, you're there, you're speaking about it, breaking the taboo. Tell us a little more about the way forward as you see it.
The way forward is really to, I think, require, as again David Attenborough urges the environmental movement, to start putting human numbers into every statement they make about problems, and point out that they'd all be easier to solve if we could only stabilize our population. As it is at the moment in this country, the population is growing by about 1,200 people every day, all requiring houses, transport, water, energy and so on, producing waste and pollution, far more than if we were Ethiopians. At the same time, globally, the population is growing by 10,000 people every hour, or 250,000 every day, and all of those people require food, water, energy and so on. So while the taboo remains in place, there's little point in discussing detailed measures, but of course some countries have already faced up to the problem and dealt with it really rather well.
Well, there have been attempts in the past in some countries. One thinks of India, one thinks of China, but there are huge problems in actually limiting numbers in families without actually trampling human rights.
It's very interesting that you discussed the two countries of which only one still has a coercive policy. Iran, for instance, and Thailand, and Mexico and Costa Rica and South Korea, many others, have achieved equivalent reductions in fertility as those that the Indians, the Chinese have achieved by non-coercive means. And the way you do it, of course, is a combination of freely available access to contraception, empowerment of women and encouragement to control their own fertility as they wish, good advice on what suits them, and good backup.